Welcome to WEBS. We got a few hymns for you guys today. I love to tell the story, page 444, and then Blessed Be the Name, page 52. I love to tell the story of unseen things above. Jesus and His glory, of Jesus and His love. I love to tell the story because I know 'tis true. It satisfies my longings, and nothing else can do. I love to tell the story. 'Twill be my theme and glory to tell the old story of Jesus and His love. I love to tell the story. 'Tis pleasant to repeat what seems each time I tell it more wonderfully sweet. I love to tell the story as some have never heard, the message of salvation from God's own holy word. I love to tell the story. 'Twill be my theme and glory to tell the old story of Jesus and His love. I love to tell the story, those who know it best seem hungering and thirsty to hear it like the rest. And when in scenes of glory I sing a new song, 'twill be the old story that I have loved so long. I love to tell the story. 'Twill be my theme and glory to tell the old story of Jesus and His love. Page 52, Blessed Be the Name. For 1,000 tongues to sing, blessed be the name of the Lord. The glories of my God and King, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. He breaks the power of canceled sin. Blessed be the name of the Lord. His blood can make the foulest clean. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. I never shall forget that day. Blessed be the name of the Lord. When Jesus washed my sins away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. Amen. Brother Charlie.
Amen. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Jan, as always. Well, good afternoon. Now, for me, it seemed a lot cooler today. Okay, some of you are nodding your head. Some of you are going, I'm not believing it. But you know, when you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you go outside, it was like, oh, okay, I can do this. This is real nice. If it would just stay that way, right? Anyway, good stuff. Well, so glad you guys have come out today, and I'm not going to take a lot of time just kind of messing around up there. I know we want to get to Holly, but a couple things we do want to let you know. Next Wednesday is our mystery lunch. You know, this month there's 5 Wednesdays in July. So next month is the 4th Wednesday, so we'll still have our mystery lunch. If you haven't signed up yet, you want to be sure to do that. There's some sign-up sheets right over here, or you can do that on the church's website as well. So we'd love to have you. Remember, we leave at 11 o'clock. And if you want to ride on church provided transportation, just be sure you put a B when you sign up over there on the sign-up sheet. And then the following week will be Senior Adult Revival, July 26th through the 29th. Pastor Pastor Emeritus Jerry Wells. You know, I just don't think I'm that old, but Jerry and I went to high school together, right? But Jerry played baseball and basketball at OBU, pastor for 38 years at Western Hills Baptist Church in Oklahoma City. It's now called the Together Church. Anyway, I won't even go there. But it's going to be a great time. It's No Other Gods is the title of this series. And really the point of it is everything we need was contained in the gospel of Jesus Christ. All that we need is there. So he's going to talk about that. Dr. Jeff has asked him to preach that morning as well. So we'll have him Sunday morning, Sunday night, and then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. If you want to come. We want you to be here. If you want to come and eat, I need you to sign up so Stacy knows how many meals to buy. So be sure you sign up for that as well. So that being said, I don't know what it's been, 6 or 8 weeks, Kurt, and I got a message from Kurt and Denise Sharp that, hey, we had a gal at Robeson Ranch talk to us about Alzheimer's and dementia, and you really need to contact her. It was so good. So they sent me the contact information, so I reached out to Holly, who's our speaker, and she's like, hey, well, I would love to come. So we put the whole thing together. So this is Holly Lowe. She's with the James L. West. What's the actual name? James L. West?
For Dementia Care.
That. So please make welcome Holly Lowe.
Yes, it's the James L. West Center for Dementia Care in Fort Worth, Texas. And I don't know if you know, but it doesn't matter how much you curl your hair. When it's 86 degrees in your house, my AC went out on Monday on my birthday. It just gets better, doesn't it? Wow, I got a gift, all right. It's coming Saturday morning. Cha-ching is what I got. So, I'm not up there. Okay. Fancy, look at that. So, let's talk about dementia. Something that nobody wants to know anything about, but we all need to know about. We're going to talk about healthy brain aging. I'm going to give you the latest statistics. They change all the time. That's a good thing. There was even some new stuff come out. We stay on top of it. So the James L. West Center, we are downtown Fort Worth. We're at the corner of Summit and Lancaster. We've been there, I think next month we're having our 34th anniversary. Mr. James L. West was the head of the, y'all are going to know what this is. When I talk to students, I get blank looks. The Tandy Corporation. Y'all have heard of that. I say Radio Shack to kids today, and they're just, huh? That's also the same children who say, are you talking about the 1900s? It's, oh boy, I'm about to get upset with some kids. We got over 30 universities and schools that rotate through the West Center because we know we've got to teach that next generation coming up, because who's going to be taking care of us and who's going to be taking my place in a few years. So we have all the students come through, but some of the things they say, wow, it makes those birthdays, whew, the 1900s. That's very common now, by the way. So Mr. West actually developed Alzheimer's disease in the 1980s, when we sure didn't use the word Alzheimer's disease. He had the resources, though, that he was able to get a diagnosis. There's no treatment. There's no cure. So what they did, they didn't have any children. They left all of their money to First Presbyterian Church, which is right across the street from us. And their wish, James and Eunice West, was do something for the community. So they put together a kind of a search committee, and they got to looking what's being done for people in the United States that have dementia, Alzheimer's being the most common type of dementia, and we'll talk more about that. And they found that in the entire United States, in the late 80s and early 90s, there were 2 nursing homes that did memory care in the United States, that only did memory care. Now, my mom was a dementia care nurse back in the 80s, but they called it senility. And they called it the hardening of the arteries. And everybody expected that everybody got it. Now we know dementia is not a normal part of aging. No memory loss is a normal part of aging. We'll talk more about that. If there's actual memory loss, something's going on. It might not be dementia, because the word dementia is not a synonym for memory loss. The word dementia is a cluster of symptoms. So they built the third. So we are the third in the United States nursing home that all we do is memory care. And we've been there since 93, I think is when they opened the doors. We started with a day program. Notice I didn't say a daycare. Adults don't go to daycare. Adults go to a day program. And that day program is still up and going strong. We can have up to 80 people a day. And it's a place where people with dementia can go, and it's kind of a social setting. And I also call it brain rehab, because we do so many things that are good for the brain there that families will actually come back and tell me, I think they're getting better. I said, well, the dementia's not getting better, but the circumstances are better. You're getting rest. They're in a structured environment. You're not like this all day. You're not getting on each other's nerves all the time, and they're with peers. So we'll talk more about that. So we've been there a long time. About 16 years ago, because we're a not-for-profit, we were able to get a grant through the Bass family and start an education department. And my boss, our VP of education, started that, and she did it by herself for about 8 years, and then they brought me on. And I've been working in the field for a very long time. I was a school teacher first. I taught school for 20 years. I say I did my time in public education. I was one of the blessed ones that I was a teacher when I had a paddle in my classroom. I didn't have any issues in my classroom, and my last name was Patton, so you know what the name of my paddle was, the General. And I taught middle and high school, so I would usually just go over and say, I'd put that paddle on their desk and go, I am a pretty big woman. You just sit there and think about that. Rarely had to use that paddle, rarely. Okay, so let's start. When I just say the word dementia, tell me, speak out loud. What's the first things that come to your mind? Age, what else? Forgetfulness, what else? Memory loss, what else?
Feeling different.
Yes, feeling different, what else? Confusion. Okay, now when I say the word dementia, what ages come to your mind? Seniors, what else? 70 and up, I heard some anybody. And then symptoms, I heard some of you saying some symptoms. What's interesting is whether I'm teaching healthcare professionals. This past Friday, I was down with let me get this working again. I was down with a group of professionals in San Antonio, and I'll ask the same questions that I just asked you. And you know what I usually hear? Memory loss, confusion, and they forget a lot. Those are all the same. There's 36 common symptoms to dementia. 36. And if you or a loved one have dementia, you're well aware that there's way, way more to dementia than memory loss. There's even 2 types of dementia that don't have any memory loss at first. It comes later. So a person can get diagnosed with dementia and not have any memory loss. We're going to talk about those. Ages. Yes, the most common age is over the age of 65 for Alzheimer's disease. Under the age of 65, frontotemporal dementia. We call it FTD. We've heard about it a lot lately because Bruce Willis's family has been very open. Emma Willis, his wife, has written a book about it. That's what we that work in the field like, is when celebrities are not, that gets rid of the stigma. I don't know if you saw last week, Danny Glover came out, and Danny Glover has said he's got Alzheimer's. Whenever people come out and they own it, it gets rid of that stigma. So I've got a woman in one of my support groups. I've got 4 support groups. 2 are online, 2 are in person. They're open to everybody. Her daughter's 28 years old, and she has Alzheimer's disease. I've got a chaplain friend who's a chaplain at Harris downtown. His daughter was 33 when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Why? I don't know. Why some people and not others? Does it matter how much education you've got? Nope. Dementia doesn't care. Matter how much money you got? Nope. Does it matter if you're male or female? No. Now, we do have more females than men who develop dementia, but that's because women live longer. That's the only reason why. Seriously, that's the only reason why. What about races? Does it matter? It doesn't matter. Dementia doesn't care. Dementia doesn't care. So, some of the stuff we're going to talk about is really, really hard, but like we were saying earlier, I'm a licensed professional counselor, I'm a grief therapist, a trauma therapist, and I'm a certified death doula. I sit with all of our residents as they pass. I've been with over 500 people as they've died and their families. Never thought that's where I'd land. It's a gift. If it's something you can do, it's a gift. So I always say at the West Center, if somebody's crying, dying, or mad, Holly, come running. Somebody's crying, dying, or mad. I go up onto our houses. We are a 4-story building, and we're divided into what we call houses. And if I come on the houses, it doesn't fail. So they'll go, uh-oh, who's dying? Who's mad? Who's upset? The counselor's here. Let's look at this brain. Over here on the left, we've got a 70-year-old man. Those are actual brains here. 70-year-old man who died in a car accident. That's a normal 3-pound brain. Normal 3-pound brain. Over here, we've got a 70-year-old man who died from end-stage Alzheimer's disease. That's a 1-pound brain. How is that person going to act like this one? How is that person going to speak like this one? How is that person going to do anything like this one? But can you see dementia? In the beginning of dementia, can you see it? You can't look at a person and go, well, there's dementia. There's Alzheimer's. There's Lewy body. There's front. You can't. In the beginning, you can't. But we will expect them to act like this person when there's a failing brain. And that's what's happening. So what stood out when I put that up there? There's a couple of things. What jumped out at you? The size, 3 pounds, 1 pound. In medical terms, that's called atrophy. No matter what type of dementia it is, the brain is beginning to shrink. The brain is shrinking. What else stood out? What you're seeing, I heard a couple people use the word holes. Those are holes. Those are holes in the brain. That's a failing brain. So, let me see if ooh, it works. Okay, look right here. And look right here. Look right here. Now, I want you to see something right here. Look at this. This is the forehead. And look at this forehead. Look at that distance. Look at this distance. This is executive functioning. This is reasonable and rational decisions. This is sequencing. What order do I do things in? And it's my filter. Don't say that. Yes, say that. Don't do that. Yes, do that. Going away. So why sometimes does somebody with dementia maybe say or do something that they never would have said or done? Because they've got damage in the frontal part of their brain. Why also does every single person with dementia look different? Because we don't know where that individual's damage is in their brain. We say if you've seen one person with dementia, you've seen one person with dementia. In all of the thousands of people with dementia I've seen, they've been similar but different. Similar but different. So I want you to keep this in mind, as hard as it is, as we go through and we talk about some of the things that can happen with dementia. Now, there's the definition of dementia. Notice you've got to have problems with at least 2 brain functions, not just one. If you've got problems with just one, it could be what's called a treatable dementia, which we hate that term. We call it treatable memory loss because people hear, oh, treatable dementia, that means I can reverse it. And we can't reverse it. But there are things we can reverse, like malnutrition, depression, drug and alcohol use, vitamin imbalance, hormone imbalance, even whenever our thyroid is out of whack. We saw a whole lot of people that appeared to have dementia during the pandemic. That was isolation and depression. Sitting in the house for days on end, never talking to anybody, never leaving. I don't know what day it is. I can't tell you the date. Who is? Well, I don't know. Could you pass the test? No. And it really can look like dementia. A person can even have an electrolyte imbalance, and it can appear to be dementia. That's why you always start at the primary care physician. Always. If somebody's having any type of issues that you might even think is dementia, get to the primary care first, because we've got to run complete blood work, because it could just be something like this. I've seen it happen over and over again. You've got to have issues with 2 areas, and it's typically memory and judgment or memory and language. So let's go back to this picture. We've got 2 language centers. We've got right language and left language. I told you I was a teacher, so I'm going to give you an easy way to remember this. Left language leaves. Left language leaves in everybody with dementia. Eventually, left language is leaving. Well, what's left language? It's what we're doing right now. It's day-to-day. It's banter. Chair, light, boy, girl, sign, clock. That's going away. Because the hippocampus is dying. Hippocampus is dying. So left language leaves, but we got another language center on the right. Right remains. And let's put another word with it. Right rhythm remains. This is good. Because what's rhythmic? What's the first thing you think of with rhythm? Music. Music stays. Music stays. And we learn how. We have to accommodate dementia, by the way. A person with dementia can't accommodate it. We learn to accommodate it. I go out and talk to lots and lots of churches, because you know where the first place the family's going to turn? To their church family. And I'm going to share a story with you in a minute about a church who didn't support a family. We got to step up and come alongside folks. Because there's a statistics that's staggering. 68% of spouses who are taking care of a spouse with dementia is going to die first. That number was 68, and it has gone up almost every year since I've been working in the field. 68% of spouses will die first, and we'll talk about why. Now, here's a staggering that hits way too close to home for me, because I am an adult daughter taking care of a mother that has dementia after working in dementia care for 34 years. She was diagnosed at 62. She will turn 76 next month. About 63% of adult children who take care of a parent with dementia for 4 years or longer will die first. Now, I want you to think about why that is. Because these are people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s usually. We're almost always still working full time. Many people are married. And many people have children or grandchildren who have boomeranged back home. And so they got kids in the house again. And I'm taking care of somebody with dementia. And I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. And we're doing all the things that we do in middle age, but I've also got somebody with dementia. Right before Christmas, I spoke at a funeral of a woman I could have gone to high school with who was taking care of everybody but herself. Coming to every support group, doing all the education. And I got a call she was in the hospital. Because she hadn't been going to her appointments, and by the time they found the cancer, it was all over. It was like 2 weeks from a caregiver. So please don't ever think I'm just giving you statistics. I'm giving you what I live every day and what I see every day. So, back to the right side. Music stays. Everybody has what's called a music set, and it's the music we listen to between the ages of 10 and 25. 10 and 25. Good stuff. The music you listen to as a teenager. Now, here's what I tell our staff, because we got lots of young people working at the West Center. Do not play your music for the residents. Unless you're the same age, do not play your music, because they're going to call it racket. And the example I use is my grandparents were teenagers in the 40s, and my mom was a teenager in the 60s, where good music started. But her mama called her music racket. Those darn Beatles coming over here didn't have a haircut. They needed to take care. Ooh, I can remember my grandmother just ragging on the Beatles. Well, then I came along, and in the 80s, what I think is the best music, but my mother called it racket. Turn off that Prince and Michael Jackson and all those hair bands. She didn't want to hear it. Well, I love it. And my daughter comes along, and she's in the 2000s, and that is some racket right there. So we do not want to play our music for someone with dementia unless we're the same age. But music's so important. Play Christmas songs in July. Who cares? It's there. And a person who might not even be talking anymore can usually still sing or hum. And I've had people tell me, oh, no, my wife didn't like music, she don't like music. And then they'll come back to support group and go, I put it on the 60s channel in the car, and I looked over there, she was singing. We had just singing Mamas and Papas driving down the road, and she hadn't said a word, but she can sing. What else is rhythmic, though? There's other language that's rhythmic, has a pattern, has a beat. Poetry, yes. Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed, stays. Now, there's some special words that also stay. Some of y'all know where we're headed with this because you've lived it. When we were really, really little, every one of us at some time or another in our life heard curse words, sex talk, and racial slurs. And every one of us was told, you better not say that, mister, or you're going to be in big trouble. And it didn't store on the left, because left is day-to-day language. It's stored on the right. So guess what remains? Curse words, sex talk, and racial slurs. And people who've never used those words will sometimes use those words to get a need met. They're not having a behavior. People with dementia don't have behaviors, by the way. They have expressions, and sometimes those expressions are challenging. They're doing the best they can. Got a sign in my office that says, a person with dementia is not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. Now, why do you think we get more of those ugly words during ADL time, which is activities of daily living? Showers and toothbrush and getting dressed and shaving. And why would we have more of those expressions during that time? We're just trying to help them. What do you think? Because they think they can do it for themselves, but they can't. Now imagine, everybody imagine this, when you got up this morning and you assume you're perfectly fine, and somebody came in and started trying to help you in the shower, or told you were doing it wrong, or came in and tried to do it for you, especially if you were on the toilet, or in the shower, or brushing your teeth. Some of you with a 3-pound brain might have pulled back a fist and said a few words. Now imagine a damaged brain. That filter is going away. And they'll use the words that remain when what they mean to say is, please don't help me with that, I think I can do it myself. Sometimes they'll hit, kick, bite, punch, spit. And they're saying the same thing. Or they'll say an ugly, ugly word, and they're saying the same thing. And the more we try to reason, and the louder and slower we talk, 80% of all of those challenging expressions are our approach or the environment. 80%. Only 20% of the time are the challenging expressions part of the disease itself. So we have to learn the approach. And we got to watch our environment. You saw the brain, all 5 senses controlled by that failing brain. So all 5 senses are changing. Vision's changing. Peripheral vision's going to go away pretty early. Mid-stage dementia is like having on binoculars. Late stage is like a monocle. Hearing can't filter out background noise. So somebody with dementia right now might really be going, where's that water coming from? And it's that running, because they just can't filter it out. Feeling, tactile changes. Water does not feel good. It can feel like it's ripping their skin off. So most people with dementia do not like the shower or the bath. Taste changes, and by the grace of God, which one stays? Some of y'all already know. Sweet remains. Thank you, Lord. So ice cream is how we treat dementia. The end. No, ice cream is God's gift to dementia. Ice cream is wonderful. Sweet remains. In fact, one of our tricks that we use is we'll take a sugar packet and put it on the whole tray of food. Because why would you eat something you can't taste? So sweet remains. Use the sweet. Okay. So irreversible dementias are the ones we're going to talk about. Dementia is progressive, meaning it's going to get worse. Usually every 6 months, it's a noticeable difference. And dementia's terminal. The doctors rarely use those words. Typically, when you get a diagnosis, they'll give you some Aricept and say, see you in 6 months. I've had people even coming to live with us. They're to the point that they're having to put their loved one into a memory care community, and they've never heard that this is terminal. We're the only place I know, a nursing home that has a licensed counselor on staff. My job is to take care of the families, because I'm the one that has those conversations. So we're going to start again. It is not a normal part of aging, and it's not contagious. Now, if you've taken care of somebody with dementia, you may have thought, I'm catching it. Because I'm here to tell you on Friday at 3 o'clock, I got a building full of people who think they've caught it. Because we all are going, oh, those studies were wrong because I've got it. No, you don't. You're tired. You're stressed out. You've been with somebody with dementia day in and day out. You hadn't been able to go clock out like we get to do. It's not contagious. I had to put that up there because I kept getting asked. I thought everybody knew that, but everybody doesn't know that. And it's not a normal part of aging. But probably 9.5 out of 10 people when they first come to the West Center will tell me, well, you know, we just thought Daddy was getting old. He was just doing what everybody does. And then I talk to him and tell him memory loss is normal. Now, here's what is normal. Why'd I come in this room? And I back out and I figure it out. That's normal. Where are my keys? Where are my glasses? And they're on your head. Where's my phone? And it's in your pocket. Normal, normal, normal. So everybody, that's all normal. A lot of it's stress, and part of that is aging, because what's normal with aging is slowing down. That's what's normal. Slowing down is what's normal. Not being able to multitask as much, that's normal also. But there are studies that show that we could go down there to TCU, get a group of students and give them a memory test, and give a group of 85-year-olds the same memory test, and they should make the same score, but it's going to take those 85-year-olds longer to take the test because they're not going to be on the phone and talking and cooking and do it like the kids are going to be doing. We're going to take the test, and it's going to take us a little bit longer. That's okay. We're supposed to slow down. These bodies are just temporary. They're wearing out on us. It's going to take us a little bit longer, but actual memory loss shouldn't happen. Okay, here's some more things that will be affected. We've talked about those. Now, I want to get into the most common types of dementia, and we're going to go through these pretty quick. You've got the information and you've got my card. If you don't, they're over here and I can talk with it. We're going to have a Q&A time at the end, but I also want to get to brain aging. But I want you to know there's over 100 different types of dementia. In fact, there's over 130 different types of dementia. In my field, where I see it day in and day out, I might see 10 of them. So like the one my mom has right now, the disease is called disease XYZ. It doesn't even have a name. They don't even know a name for it. She's got one of those rare types. Each of the dementias has subtypes, and they think there's actually over 400 types of dementia. But that's a whole nother talk. So I'm just going to touch on the top 5, and we'll just do a brief overview. Number 1, of course, being Alzheimer's disease. And with Alzheimer's disease, we actually are growing plaque on the brain. So when you hear plaque, what do you think of? Teeth. And where else? Heart. Well, how do we get rid of plaque on the teeth? We clean, we brush, we floss, we blast. We can get rid of it. How do we get rid of plaque in our arteries, in the heart? There's statins that we can take. They can go in there and they really clean it out. It almost looks like a pipe cleaner. They can clean it out. Now, it isn't good for us, but they can clean it out. That brain we looked at earlier, if we had us a 3-pound brain up here, it'd be like trying to hold a Jell-O mold. You can't blast a Jell-O mold. You can't pick it. You can't floss it. They have not figured out how to get the plaque off the brain. There's a new infusion that's out that's having some pretty good results. It's got 2 side effects: brain bleeding and brain swelling. And statistically right now, it looks like it's buying people that it works on about 5.5 months. I know one family that did it that had fantastic, really good results. I know another family that did it and she lost her sight. But what does that mean? We're getting there. We're getting there. So that's why all of our programs now, we piggyback it with healthy brain aging. Because what if you've got it coming, but we could put it off for 5 years? What are we going to have in 5 years? They may have figured that out so that it doesn't have the brain swelling and the brain bleeding, because medicine changes all the time. So, Alzheimer's disease. Now, if you think about plaque, it's kind of yellow and it's sticky. Well, here's what's going on. Again, picture that brain. We got that 3-pound brain. And randomly, it starts getting plaque on it. And it's in different spots for everybody. Then something else happens. We all have what's called tau protein. And that tau protein holds our cells together in our brain. But for some reason, this is such a good graphic. For some reason, in people with Alzheimer's, it starts to unravel. And when it unravels, it looks like hair. That's why they call it tangles. Now, what should happen is we go to sleep at night, cerebrospinal fluid washes over our brain and it washes it away. But what's that brain got on it that's not going to let it wash away? Sticky plaque. That's it. So here's what happens. This is some actual brain photos here. Looky here. We got plaque. All this that looks like hair, that's those tangles. Look what's doing. It's wrapping round and round and round and round and round that plaque, and look what happens eventually. A hole. So that's what's happening in Alzheimer's. Do you know when I first started in the field, we didn't know this? We didn't know that. That's how far we've come now. You could get a good firm at autopsy. They could tell you, yep, that was Alzheimer's. Well, that's a little late. I don't know about y'all, but I need to know before then. But now we know. Why is the hole? So the hole doesn't form like that. That takes a long time. Because look right here. This hole is forming. There's a hole. There's holes. There's a hole. Here's a hole. But there's one gonna be a hole. This is gonna be a hole. That's why some days, connect. It looks like everything's there. They're doing great. And other days, phew, same person. Because if I ate well that night and there wasn't any storms and we slept good and you're in a good mood and I'm in a good mood and the sun is shining and it's not 110 degrees and I got my coffee and the dog's in my lap and you're singing, bam, I can brush my teeth, shave my face, and put on my pants. Life is good. Next night, there's a storm. I don't sleep well. You don't sleep well. The dog has a mess on the floor. You're gripey in the morning. I'm gripey. It's still overcast and it's hot. Whew. Same person in there, and they're putting toothpaste in their hair. Because I know I'm supposed to do something with it, but what? Because that's what's happening to the brain. Now, eventually, it'll be gone because of the holes. Does that make sense? Okay, here's the most common symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. So I want to point one out. Phantom border syndrome is not uncommon at all for a person with Alzheimer's disease to think that there's somebody getting their stuff, becoming very paranoid, even delusions or hallucinations, or that there's somebody upstairs when you don't have an upstairs. And it's because they're hearing, like I'm hearing that. And so, I forgot to tell you I went to seminary. That's important. And I graduated from Dallas Baptist. That's important. Because I know God. Because I'm about to tell you, here's how we talk to people with dementia. We use what I call therapeutic stories. You following me? God knows the difference in a lie and a therapeutic story. I promise he does. So when I have a resident who keeps coming to me and saying, those people upstairs kept me up all night, what you gonna do about it? Am I going to take them outside and show them we don't have an upstairs? Or am I going to match their feeling and say, they kept you up too? They kept me up too. Well, that's it. I'm going upstairs to talk to them. Come on, we better get down here and get us some coffee and some cinnamon rolls because I got that taken care of. I just validated the feeling. I fixed it. And now I'm distracting away. And we're done till tomorrow when we do it again. But I'm not going to try to reason with somebody with dementia. Not going to win. In fact, we're probably going to get mad at each other. And then I'm going to be mad, and they're going to be mad, and they're not going to know why they're mad. go to their world. Okay, we're going to watch this short video that explains what's happening with Alzheimer's disease.
What is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's is a slow, fatal disease of the brain affecting 1 in 10 people over the age of 65. No one is immune. The disease comes on gradually as two abnormal protein fragments called plaques and tangles accumulate in the brain and kill brain cells. They start here in the hippocampus, the part of the brain where memories are first formed. Over many years' time, the plaques and tangles slowly destroy the hippocampus, and it becomes harder and harder to form new memories. Simple recollections from a few hours or days ago that the rest of us might take for granted are just not there. After that, more plaques and tangles spread into different regions of the brain, killing cells and compromising function wherever they go. This spreading around is what causes the different stages of Alzheimer's. From the hippocampus, the disease spreads here to the region of the brain where language is processed. When that happens, it gets tougher and tougher to find the right word. Next, the disease creeps toward the front of the brain, where logical thought takes place. Very gradually, a person begins to lose the ability to solve problems, grasp concepts, and make plans. Next, the plaques and tangles invade the part of the brain where emotions are regulated. When this happens, the patient gradually loses control over moods and feelings. After that, the disease moves to where the brain makes sense of things it sees, hears, and smells. In this stage, Alzheimer's wreaks havoc on a person's senses and can spark hallucinations. Eventually, the plaques and tangles erase a person's oldest and most precious memories, which are stored here in the back of the brain. Near the end, the disease compromises a person's balance and coordination. And in the very last stage, it destroys the part of the brain that regulates breathing and the heart. The progression from mild forgetting to death is slow and steady and takes place over an average of 8 to 10 years. It is relentless and, for now, incurable. Helping your family, friends, and neighbors to better understand Alzheimer's will reduce stigma, improve care, and even help the fight for a cure.
So from that, is the person with dementia going to be able to keep using this thing? This is new learning. Does anybody have a hard time with this when it updates? Holy moly. Let's hand that to somebody with a failing brain. So these are not phones. Even though we've had them a long time, this is not a phone. Y'all all know what a phone is. I grew up with a phone that hung on the wall where you went that had a cord about this long until I finally talked my mom into getting a long cord so I could pull it down the hallway. So this is going to go away. Somebody who hasn't always worn hearing aids, those are going to go away. Because they're going through something called the theory of retrogenesis. They're unlearning everything they learned, going back in time. And eventually, we're going back to who we were originally. It means we're going back in time developmentally. Developmentally. Who were we when we were born? We were not walking, we were not talking, we were not toileting ourselves, we weren't feeding ourselves. And if someone lives long enough with dementia, that is end-stage dementia, is total care. So when they get to where they can't walk, because we haven't always been walking, they're going to have a lot of falls, just like we had a lot of falls as we learned to walk. Eventually, they're going to start eating with their fingers because we didn't always eat with utensils. And eventually, they're going to become incontinent because we haven't always been going to the bathroom. And please don't ever use the word diapers with an adult. Adults don't wear diapers. Adults wear brief or they wear underpants. Please don't say you're putting a bib on an adult. Adults don't wear bibs. Adults wear clothing protectors. Dignity. Dignity. Please don't stand over an adult and cut their food up. If it needs to be cut it up in the kitchen, cut yours up too, and bring out 2 plates that look just alike. Dignity. Because that person might, you stand over them and you're cutting up their food and you wonder why you got to hit, kick, bite, punch, swear word. And they can't say to you, please don't stand over me and cut my food up. You're making me feel like a child, but I can give you one of these. But they can't tell you why. Let's look at vascular dementia. There's studies that show that about 80% of people who die with any type of dementia also have vascular. Vascular dementia is exactly what it sounds like. When you hear vascular, what do you think of? Heart. So anybody who's ever had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, or has been a smoker is at a really high risk for this. And it doesn't come on. So think about this. For those of you that take high blood pressure medication, you had high blood pressure long before you knew you had it and needed to take the medicine. That's why they call it the silent killer. You didn't know you had it until you had it so bad you needed medication. But you'd had it for a long time. Cholesterol, same way. I don't know if things are starting to clog up in here until I have the stroke or I pass out or those blood tests come back. Then I go on the medicine. Well, I already had a limited amount of blood flow up to my brain. And how many years was it going on? Vascular is the one that can come on suddenly because it can come on after a stroke. The most common cause of vascular is a stroke. Now, families sometimes will say, but Holly, my mama went in there to have her hip replaced. She came out with the dementia. No, she didn't. She already had it. You just didn't know she had it. What made it worse was general anesthesia pushed it to the next stage. General anesthesia is the absolute worst thing we can do for our brain. We want to avoid it at all costs. Always talk to the anesthesiologist and see if there is something else you can do. Some type of a block. If you have to have general anesthesia, as I did with my new knee, and I had to have general anesthesia because I got the power tools out, because I told him that I wasn't going to have general anesthesia, and he told me he used power tools, and I said, never mind, give me general anesthesia. But not until you're ready to use the power tools. So I was completely awake in the room, in the operating room. They did a femoral block into my femur. Wasn't pleasant, but I didn't have general anesthesia till he was ready to use power tools. And then I was out a short amount of time, and I was back up while we were in the operating room. Because I'm not going to have any of that I don't have to have. So a person goes in, they're already having some signs and symptoms. Family doesn't realize it because they think they're just getting older. They break a hip, have surgery, come out, and the family goes, oh my God, they got dementia. No, they already had dementia. It just pushed them to the next stage of dementia. So vascular is the one that can come on suddenly, and here's what a vascular brain looks like. Let's look at this brain right here. There's the stroke. Let's look right here. There's the stroke. There's the stroke. And right here, there's the stroke. So in this brain right here, look. Some of y'all have heard of these. What are little tiny strokes called? TIAs. TIAs. Well, the whole rest of that brain's fine. So vascular tends to be the mildest of the dementias because the only damage is where the stroke is. So I'll give you a quick story. Had a woman who was in her 90s, still lived alone, doing great. But she wasn't eating, she wasn't ever turning her lights on, and she wasn't taking her medicine. But she knew who everybody was. You'd have a complete and total conversation with her. So her sons realized that she needed to be placed, and it made her madder than heck. Of course it did. Well, she was right across from my office, so I hired her because she needed a job. So I hired her. She'd worked out at Lockheed for years, and she actually would make my little pamphlets for me. Whenever I was coming to give a talk, I would give her the information and ask her, go make me 90 of these. She could run the copy machine. But every night, she insisted on watching what she called her killing shows. NCIS, CSI, Law and Order, Criminal Minds, anything where people were getting killed, she's watching it. And every morning she'd be at my office going, Holly, you won't believe what happened. This man came in my room with a gun. He was shooting holes all in the wall. And she believed it. That's how her vascular dementia showed up. Now, knowing what you know so far, did I tell her that no one came in the room? Validate, fix, distract. Oh, I bet you were scared to death. That would scare me. Let's go over here. I want to see what those holes look like. And by the time we got to her room, every day, Sean, our maintenance guy, is amazing. I can't even see any holes. Come on, let's go get us some coffee. We got a lot of work to do. Let's go. Validate, fix, distract. We did it every day until we didn't. Because with all of those expressions they have, they'll stop eventually. They're going to turn the corner. Disease is going to progress, and they'll stop. There's some symptoms of vascular dementia. Again, we've already talked about this. Judgment's not usually affected until later, and personality and emotions usually remain intact with vascular. Let's look at Lewy body quickly. Lewy body is usually in the 60s. Here's what it looks like. It was Dr. Lewy who actually worked with Dr. Alzheimer in the late 1890s who discovered this on autopsied brains, that it looked different from Alzheimer's disease. And it does. They're perfectly round, and they're little foreign bodies on the brain, so he called it, of course, a Lewy body. Here's something different, though. Let's look at the symptoms of Lewy body dementia. What's missing? Memory loss isn't up there, because this is one of those two that a person can have for a long time and not have any memory loss, but they've got dementia, Lewy body dementia. This is what Robin Williams had. His wife has now come out and talked about this is what he had, Robin Williams. But notice what they get. Lots of hallucinations, and it starts with this. Well, what does that look like? Waddling, shuffling gait, a tremor. That sounds more like Parkinson's. And so many times they'll get misdiagnosed with Parkinson's. They're really, really close. In fact, a person can have Lewy body and have Parkinson's. Now, here's what's difficult. A person with Lewy body can have a lot of physical aggression. They can be really combative. And all we do with medications is treat symptoms. That's it. But the medications with Lewy body, if you treat the symptoms that look like Parkinson's, it makes the hallucinations worse. And if you treat the hallucinations, it makes the Parkinson-like syndrome worse. So it's really, really hard to treat for symptoms. And the last one we're going to look at is FTD. This is the one that we see more in people under the age of 65. It's where the frontotemporal lobes start to atrophy while the rest of the brain remains pretty normal. And they typically start with this: socially inappropriate behaviors like stealing, sexual aggressiveness, vulgar language, and loss of inhibition. Now, not everybody's going to present like that. And look what's last. Memory loss is last. Many people with FTD present with aphasia, where they start to lose their language first. But let me show you what a brain of somebody with FTD looks like. This is normal. Look up here at the forehead. Look at that space. While this is normal. So on all the other dementias, the atrophy is about the same, but on FTD, this front part's pulling back, and that's executive functioning. So those are the most common dementias. We're going to shift gears, and we're going to start talking about brain health. What can we do to take care of our brains? It doesn't matter where you are in your life. Even if somebody's already been diagnosed with a dementia, if we can, like I said, if we can postpone it, if we can slow it down, if we can halt it for a little while. There's not a cure, but there are things that we know to do for our brain. Most of these, if I were to ask you, what do we do to take care of our brain? Most of you could probably name all of those, but are you doing it? That's the key. Are you doing it? It takes 30 days to make or break a habit, 28 to 30 days. That's why when people go in for rehab for drug and alcohol, they stay for 28 days. That's the common amount of time. Because if you can stop something for 28 days, it's said you break the habit. But if you can start something for 28 days, you start a habit. So I want you to think now, don't go from here today and go, well, I'm going to start every one of them tomorrow. No, you won't. You're setting yourself up for failure. But I'm going to change something. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Usually right here is when I say, I'm going to add some berries to my diet. But right now, we got all kinds of stuff going on with the berries, so I don't know if I'm going to add, although I'm buying blueberries because they're not really on the list of ones to be watching out for. Blueberries, raspberries, strawberries are the best fruits for our brain because they don't have the amount of sugar that a lot of the others do, and they have a lot of antioxidants. So let's start with risk factors. 30% of the time, dementia is genetic. 30% of the time, it's genetic. So what if I decide I'm going to go take that test? Because they've got a test. It's a mouth swab. I did it. And you can see if you're going to get the genetic type of dementia. Some people want to know, some don't. Well, what if it comes back and it's negative? Mine was negative. Does that mean I'm never going to develop dementia? Nope. It means I'm not going to develop the genetic type of dementia. Because it's only 30% of the time that it's genetic. Age, the older we get, chances go up. If it's in our family, and then mild cognitive impairment. If somebody's been diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, their chances of that turning over to dementia, it depends on what you look. Some statistics say 50%, some say 60%, but your chances are a lot higher. And then somebody with Down syndrome, what they have found is that people who have Down syndrome, if they live to be about 40, the majority of them end up with dementia. What are other risk factors? Heavy alcohol use. I don't know about y'all, but when I was a kid, I can remember being taught that alcohol, that kills the brain cells. Well, you know what? They were right. It really does kill the brain cell. But what about red wine? Not even red wine is something that, it's the alcohol. It's the alcohol. It is not good for us. Smoking. Another one here. Depression has a star by it. 2019, they came out with a study because depression and anxiety fall under a category called mental health. Well, that's got just as big a stigma as dementia does. So in counseling, we don't call it mental health anymore, we call it brain health. Because what I have found in my career is that strangers will come up and tell me all about their heart condition. Strangers will tell me about their bowels and their stomachs, but they do not want to talk about depression. It's just brain health. Untreated depression permanently changes the brain, and we now know it can lead to dementia. It's one of the questions I ask when people are moving in is, have they had untreated depression? And I can't tell you how many people will say, oh, they've had depression their whole life, and they wouldn't go get it treated because they read an article somewhere back in 1975 that said something about antidepressants aren't something that you can get addicted to. Antidepressants even out your brain chemistry and can actually keep you from getting that type of dementia. So we want to always treat depression. It can lead to dementia if we don't. Those are new things that they have found. Brain health and sleep. So for years and years, we were told diet, exercise, sleep. Those were the top three. About 2 years ago, they came out and they changed it and they said, you know what? Actually, exercise is more important than diet. And it became exercise, diet, sleep. January of this year, because new health statistics come out every January and every August. January of this year, they switched it up again, and sleep is number one. And it makes sense when you think about it, because if you don't sleep well, are you going to get up and exercise? I know I'm not. I'm hitting that snooze button again like I did in that 86-degree house that I was trying to sleep in. I'm just going to keep hitting the snooze button. And if I didn't sleep well, am I going to eat well? Probably not. I'm probably going to eat comfort-type foods, which are not the best for us. So now, what they're saying is sleep's number one. Because sleep is whenever your brain is repairing itself. Sleep is when we do have one of those updates on this thing and we learned it. When we sleep, it's putting it into the files so that tomorrow when I pick it up, I remember that they moved the search bar from up here to down here. But it's got to put itself in the right location, and I got to rest for it to do that. So sleep. There's the health benefits of sleep. It helps in our recovery. Exercise, and again, people, when am I supposed to get any exercise? We've got to find some time to get some exercise, because you know what happens with exercise? We push oxygenated blood up to our brain. Oxygenated blood up to the brain. I am not saying go out and run for 6 miles. Do what you can do. And here's what the data is, we should do 150 minutes a week. 150 minutes a week. You can break that up however you want to. Do it 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Do it 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 10 minutes. Just get 150 minutes a week. Now, my mom presents as Parkinson's. She doesn't have Parkinson's, but if she were to walk in, you'd say she's got Parkinson's. So she's got a tremor, she's high fall risk. We cannot go out and walk around the track. But what I can do with her is I got one of those little pedal things that sits on the table. And so we race during commercials. Just as fast as we can go during commercial time. Now, is she getting 150 minutes a week? I doubt it, but is she getting something? Yes. Is it pushing oxygenated blood up to her brain? Yes. We were told she'd live about 2 years. That's when she was 62. I told you she's turning 76 next month. She still lives alone. Because we started making changes. And we started making changes right away. Now, does that mean that's going to work on everybody? It does not. But I know for a fact it's worked for us. I figure out ways. I even got her like the little stress balls, and we'll do that. Because just doing that, I'm pushing oxygenated blood up to my brain. A whole lot more than doing this. Waiting on commercial be over. Or this. Waiting on the commercial. Yeah, I know I'm talking to some of you out there. Uh-oh, I saw some of these going on. Okay, our diet. So, best diet for brain health is this one. It's called the MIND diet. You can look that up. It's a combination of Mediterranean and DASH. DASH is the one for hypertension. Mediterranean is plant-based. I did not say go become a vegetarian. We're in Texas, we can't. But it's plant-based. Here's what I love about the MIND diet. There's no don'ts on it. There's 10 do's and there's 5 not so much. Now, I hate to tell you this, but one of the not so much is beef. Sorry. Beef really is not very good for our brain. But it's not on the don't do it, it's on the not so much. Beef, and here comes another one. This one bothers me more than beef. Cheese. Oh, that one's personal. I take it personal. I do love cheese. And it doesn't say don't do it. It's just on the not so much. So you can look up the MIND diet. Even if you make some subtle changements, you go from having beef 5 days a week to 3 days a week, you're going to see a difference. So subtle changes. And be careful about the brain draining foods. You know what's brain draining food? It's those foods that are in the aisles at the grocery store. It's the ones that are up and down the aisles. It's the prepackaged. It's the cans and the boxes usually. So we're supposed to shop the perimeter of the store and just go get a few things down those aisles. Healthy diets, here's what we're looking for. Now, this is doable. Nuts, avocados, fatty fish, seeds, olive oils, and beans. Berries is where we get the majority of this flavonoids. Other things to do. We want to de-stress as much as possible. When we're under a tremendous amount of stress, and if you're a caregiver of somebody with dementia, or you're under a lot of stress, we dump the stress hormone, which is called cortisol. Cortisol is what throws us into fight, flight, or freeze. Cortisol is not something our brain is supposed to be swimming in all the time. It's supposed to be there for when we need it to be there so that we can just act. Now, I mentioned earlier in a person with dementia that their hippocampus is actually failing, but their amygdala stays alive. There's their AC people calling me right now. I'm going to tell them, hold tight, but get it fixed. Okay, so the amygdala doesn't die. The amygdala lives. This is good and challenging. What's this mean? If the amygdala in a person with dementia is just damaged, because it is damaged, but it does not die, and that holds feelings and emotions, it means a person with dementia still has feelings and emotions. But it also means they can read you. They can read your body language, they can read your tone, they can read your facial expressions. Even after they don't necessarily understand the words, they understand the tone. Think about if we were in a foreign country where they didn't speak English, could you figure out somebody's tone? Of course you could. Could you figure out their mood? Of course you could, because you could read their body language. So they can read your body language. That's why I walk around with my voice up, with a smile on my face. All the time, unless they're upset, like the gentleman coming in and saying, those people kept me up all night. Well, they kept me up all night too. And then I mirror him because he knows, well, I'm aggravated too. So the amygdala remains intact. Thank you. Oh, you're fine. The other thing with the amygdala, even after a person with dementia has a flat affect, and very likely if they live long enough, they'll develop a flat affect where it will look like maybe they're not there, they are there. They still have feelings, they still have emotions. They can still hear. They might not be listening to you, but they can still hear. Keep that in mind. So we've got to do things to take care of ourselves to de-stress. I know it's easier said than done, but one of the best things we can do is laugh. One of the very best things we can do. You want to know why? Because when we're laughing, you can't dump cortisol. Your brain can't do it. If you are laughing, you dump dopamine. You dump serotonin. Now, can you make yourself laugh? Of course you can. Put on Carol Burnett and we'll laugh. That's what I use. That's what I use. I go to Carol Burnett because you know why I use Carol Burnett? Because Carol Burnett with my mom, there's no dementia. When we've got Carol Burnett on, it's mom and daughter. And it's Mr. Tudball and Mrs. Wiggins, and we watch the same ones. See, I say that with young people now. I have no idea who I'm talking about. I'll even do the walk, and I go, what is she doing? Oh, you kids just don't know about Mr. Tudball and Mrs. Wiggins. YouTube is our friend. Another great thing to do with somebody with dementia, because we talk about treating it with food, music, animals, and children. Go to YouTube and type in children laughing. Oh, you'll watch the next one. You'll watch the next. You're going to feel good too. It is really hard to listen to a baby laughing and dump cortisol. Can't do it. Because you find yourself, oh, would you look at that precious little baby there? And to my loved one, would you look at that? Now, they have a hard time seeing this. This gets way too little. We need an iPad or a screen. And my favorite animals, type in baby animals, and you want something even better, baby animals falling down. Oh, that's some good stuff. That's good stuff right there. Music, laughter, and here's one, learn to say no. Social connections, you're doing it. Stay socially connected. If you've got a loved one in church and you know that their spouse, their mama, their daddy's been diagnosed with dementia and you stop seeing them, reach out to them and don't say this, call me if you need something. They're probably not going to call you. Show up at the house with a meal. Show up. Here's what I had a group in Weatherford do. Because a woman had stopped going to church because her husband, big church got too big. Too many lights, too many people. It's too much. He was getting confused. So they were going to their small group, and he was okay for a while, and then that got to be too much. So she just started staying home. And her Sunday school group kept saying, we'll come to you, we'll come to you. And she told them, no, because her husband would not put on any clothes. He wanted to sit in his chair in his underwear, and that's what he wanted to do. And I was working with her, and I said, of all places, the church should not be being judgmental about that. First of all, he's in his own home. If he wants to sit in his underwear, let him sit in his underwear. Who cares? Her church group showed up at her house. They showed up with cleaning stuff and lunch and came in and said, we love you, we're coming in. They cleaned her house. They brought her lunch. They did Bible study with her. And the first time she cried and she was upset, and they started coming every week. They didn't care if he was in there in his underwear. Their husbands were home doing it too, and they didn't even have dementia. So it just became a thing. But let me tell you the flip side of that. I speak at a lot of funerals. And I was speaking at a funeral at a big church in Fort Worth. That's all we'll say about that. And the wife was going to speak first. It was standing room only. Standing room only. That church was filled, including the balcony. And she said, I'm so glad all of you were here. And we'll just call him Bill. Oh, Bill just loved each and every one of you. You've meant so much to us over the last 50 years. Where have you been the last 2? Wow. You want to talk about a church full of people with their heads hanging, and then I had to go up and talk. I told her, I said, could you not have given me a heads up that you were going to do that beforehand? Because they abandoned her. And that's how she felt, was abandoned by her church. But everybody showed up at his funeral. Show up. And they may not know what they need. Can you mow their grass for them? Can I go get your prescriptions? Can I sit with your husband while you go take a bath? Let's go to lunch. Something. But don't let them slip into doing this by themselves. So social connections, brain fitness is huge. Now, if you do the easy crossword puzzles every day and you can do them while you're watching Wheel of Fortune, good for you. But that is not enough, because we got to do more than that. So brain games are a real thing, but there's 3 elements to brain games that we got to get in there, and it's novelty, variety, and constant challenge. Here's why. If I go join a gym, and I go over there and I get me a barbell, and every day I do this exercise right here, and that's the only exercise I do, what's going to happen to my right arm? Boy, it's going to look good, isn't it? What's going to happen to the rest of me? Not a thing. So if I'm doing the same brain game over and over, I'm only connecting the same pathway over and over and over. And if the easy crosswords are what you like because you can do them, that's great, but you're lighting up the same pathway over and over. We need, this darn thing, I can't stand Sudoku because it is so hard. That's what we need to be doing. Because if I were to run you through a PET scan and you were doing something hard, you know what it'd be doing? Lighting up all over your brain. And that's what we want. Even if we're getting aggravated at it. Oh, this is hard, I can't figure this out. Good. That's good for your brain. Because you're ding, 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 ding. You're lighting up. If you can do your puzzle and watch TV at the same time, it's too easy. Uh-oh. Yep, I just said that. If you're doing jigsaw puzzles and you can keep up with the plot, it's too easy. You need some smaller pieces. You need 1,000 piece, whatever it is. Continue to, now don't stop doing your fun stuff, but challenge yourself. Whew. And we got time for some questions. Excellent. Now, if you've got a question, I'll repeat it. Did you have one? Yep. Yeah. So he's asking if we're taking pain medications, what is that doing to the brain? If it's something that is prescribed, I'm never going to, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to tell you to stop taking those. If it's opioids, which a lot of people get prescribed opioids, especially if we've had a surgery of some type, that can really lead into that brain fog. And if we're on it for an extended amount of time, it can, that's what we think my mom's is probably from, is from extended overuse of prescription medications. Plus, she had a whole lot of anesthesia as a child. So, long term, not good. Short term. But if there's nothing else, that's why when we talk about pain management physician, go to a pain management doctor. Is there something else we can do? And sometimes there isn't. I've had people have the implanted, like if it's a back, where they do the implanted thing with the back. Yeah. Other questions? Yes? Yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's talking about sundowning. What is sundowning? Sundowning is one of those 36 symptoms. Sundowning is when a person with dementia tends to get worse as the day goes on. Now, let's think about what's happening there. I gave the example earlier of the person where everything worked right and there was ding, 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 connect. And then when it didn't, there was a disconnect. For a lot of people with dementia, when I used to do assessments, I only did them between 9 a.m. and noon. 9 a.m. and noon seemed to be a really good time. I was not going to do an assessment on someone for dementia at 4 p.m. It's skewed. Would you want somebody giving you a test at 4 p.m.? I don't, and I don't have dementia. But as the day goes on, we can regulate. At about 3, we might say, I'm going to have that one last cup of coffee, or I'm going to go walk around the block, or but we do something to kind of give ourselves that boost. I might even go take a nap. But a person with dementia, when they hit kind of that slump in the middle of the day, for some people it's 2, for some people it's 5, for some people it's 7. But it's where at the end of the day, they can take a downturn. And I got to go home, and I got to go home, and it's home, and I got to get home, and I got to pack all my stuff, and we got to go home. Well, you are home. I'm not home. Looking for home is one of the most common things that a person with dementia will do. Now, I said they're going back in time. Theory of retrogenesis. What home are they looking for? The home they grew up in. Home they grew up in. Part of the theory of retrogenesis is going back to who we originally were. I haven't always been a grandparent. I haven't always been a parent. And I have not always been a spouse. But I've always had a mama and a daddy, brothers and sisters, cousins, aunts, and uncles. It's one of the hardest parts of the disease to have your mama look you in the face and call you mama. And it happens all the time. Because I don't have, because in my mind, I'm 35. Those are not my grandkids. They're precious, they're cute, they're darling, but how could I have grandkids? I'm 35 years old. Or I look at my adult son and I talk to him like I would talk to my husband. And maybe it's not appropriate to talk to your son that way, but it is appropriate to talk to your husband that way. That's hard stuff. And the only way you get through it as a caregiver is to understand what's going on. So sundowning is when somebody, and typically what we'll find with sundowning is it's almost the reverting even more so in the evening. It can be very challenging. One of the best things we can do for sundowning is make sure we have a routine. Have that routine. So what we do, what I've done for a long time, is we need to eat at 5. This is just our routine. We're going to eat about 5 and clean up and maybe even doze off a minute. And then we got the Wheel of Fortune at 6:30, which we got to watch the Wheel of Fortune at 6:30, so that at 7, we're going to do something rhythmic. I said the rhythmic side of the brain remains. What's rhythmic? Folding clothes is rhythmic. Anything where you're doing the same thing over and over is rhythmic. And the brain's coming down. I also use a diffuser that I put lavender in that comes on every evening about 7. I also use washcloths that have lavender oil sprinkled on it. Just anything I can do to remain calm. Change the music, change the lighting, remain calm. So having a routine helps a lot. Now, what if that person is looking for home because they got to get home to their mama? You going to tell them that mama's been dead for 40 years? One of the worst things you can do is tell a person with dementia over and over and over bad news. It can actually push them into a progression. We would not want to hear every day that somebody had died. And if we tell them every day, it's the first time they heard it. And then it's the first time they heard it. And then it's the first time they heard it. And you want to talk about a cortisol dump? I've watched it push someone into. I had 2 sons who were fighting, of course. Who does family mediation? Ba-da-bing. So I had the son who's here, who's taking care of mom, taking care of business. I got the son out in Georgia or somewhere who thinks that this son is misusing mom's money because he calls his mama once a week and he talks to her for about 5 minutes and she's perfectly fine. And here's what he told me, the son who lived in Georgia. I said, tell me about your conversation with your mama on the phone. Well, I asked her about the weather. I said, it's been raining there a lot, hadn't it? And she said, yep, it's been raining a lot. I said, those Cowboys aren't any good, are they, Mama? She said, nope, them Cowboys, they aren't any good. I said, you're giving her the answer to everything. She's just repeating back to you what you said. You're not seeing the day-to-day. So the son from Georgia comes out and he says, well, I'm going to tell Mama that brother sold her house, sold her car, and she's never going back home. And I said, I'm going to highly advise you not do that. And he did it. And he left and went back to Georgia. She never got out of the bed again. And she couldn't tell us why. She wouldn't get up. She couldn't get up. And she couldn't tell us why. I know why. Because she kept hearing that over and over and over. And even though she couldn't compute, he sold my house. That amygdala was holding that feeling. And I called the son and said, could I ask you what you talked to your mama about when you were here? Well, I told her the truth. I said, she hadn't got out of bed since you left. She's barely eating. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'll come back and tell her different. So he came back and said, he didn't sell the car. He didn't do she died in about 3 weeks. She had been, in fact, she was the roommate of my lady who made all my pamphlets for me. I know that woman died from bad news over and over and over and over. So they're looking for their mama or daddy. What are we going to tell them? Think about some of the stuff I've talked about today. So this happens to me all the time, where somebody, have you seen my mama? I hadn't seen her, but here, sit down with me and help me with this and tell me all about your mama. Come on. I need some help with these papers. And I'll find something, because you know something else that's rhythmic? Stapling. We're going to staple. I need some help stapling these papers. Come on, let's staple these. Or here's another good one. I need some help running these papers through the paper shredder. I can't tell you how many paper shredders I have burned up just shredding paper. Here, you run this paper through that paper shredder and you tell me about your mama. And then I get to hear a story about their mama. I don't say she's dead. I don't say she's not coming. Sometimes I will say, if they're worried, I'll say, she called and she's running late. Sit here and tell me about her. And then I work that conversation over into something else. I break the loop. Because something else, sundowning, is a symptom, but so is looping, or telling the same story over and over, or asking the same question over and over. We can stop that. We have to break the loop. It takes some effort, and we have to get up off our duff to do it. Because if they're asking the same thing over and over, we can't say it louder and slower. You already asked me that 4 times. That isn't helping. But if I validate it, fix it, and distract, you notice every time I distract that I leave? Every time I distract, I walk out of the room. Come on with me, we got to get down here and get some coffee. Come on, we got to go get some cinnamon rolls. I think there's music down here. Because right here, we're in a loop. And if I turn back and start working again, That person was up all night, kept me up all night. Right, because I didn't break the loop. I broke it for that long. We got to get up and move. So if and if they're asking you the same question over and over, it's because they don't know the answer. They're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. And there's going to come a time they can't read anymore. We hadn't always been reading. Use a whiteboard for a long time. I bought a whiteboard for my mom. And I bought one of those whiteboards that looks like a calendar. And I put I figured out I couldn't do the whole month, but I could do a week. And then I could do a day. And now we just do it day by day. Because the week got to be too much. So if she says what time is whatever, I can say, check your whiteboard. Because she still knows time. Time's going away too. What's 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock doesn't mean anything. Because people will say, they're getting up in the middle of the night and getting dressed. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. They're completely dressed saying they got to go to work. Well, what's 3 o'clock in the morning? Does a 2-year-old know what 3 o'clock in the morning is? No, but do they know nighttime and daytime? And I said, take him over to the window and show him it's still dark outside, and then say something like this. Oh my goodness, you don't ever make it about them, you make it about you. Oh my goodness, we got up a little bit too early. It's still dark outside. Let's go back to bed. And she said, well, he got in bed with his boots on. Is he in the bed? Yes. Is he asleep? Yes. Who cares if he's got his boots on? We got to get over some of that stuff. We are right at time. Thank y'all for your time. You've got my information. My cards are there. There's pens. There's some extras if you need to take them to somebody. I've got this in a PDF if you need to send it to somebody, because if you've got family members, sometimes the best thing you can do is just send them something and make it about you. Hey, I was at a program, I got this information, I wanted to share it. Don't say, you need to read this since you're being so... That's being aggressive, not assertive. That's a whole nother talk. Thank y'all.